Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Leviathan's Last Battle by Craig Martelle, narrated by Shawn Compton. Chapter 1. It began with an idea that we could learn from the past. From the memoirs of Space Operations Fleet Admiral Harry Wesson. Leviathan dropped out of faster-than-light speed at the edge of the Ebron system. It accelerated at sublight toward the homeworld, the source of the Ebron species. One planet's population scattered to the stars. Almost like Earth, but nothing like humanity. The Ebron valued victory over everything else. They considered themselves a non-violent race because they channeled their desire for combat into other endeavors, like their games. They could be deadly, but how could a contest of strength, speed, and stamina be fun without any risk? Major Payne had been designated as humanity's champion. He would fight the Ebron's biggest and strongest, to the death. Naked. All for a chance to speak to the High Command. Not only did he have to win, but he also had to keep his wits about him. He'd been in training for 2 weeks, almost no time considering the stakes, but he felt faster and stronger than he ever had before. He knew the AI that was the ship was doing something to him, but Leviathan wouldn't admit to doing it. Maybe the Ebron looked for subterfuge in the minds of the contenders. Maybe it was best that he didn't know. He only needed to win the fight. Payne flexed as the Ebron walked near him, hardening his muscles in anticipation of a strike. It had become second nature to protect himself. He had already trained that morning and had been to the medical lab. His team was on edge. There was nothing any of them could do except his executive officer, XO, Lieutenant Mary Morris. She spoke Ebron just like Payne, thanks to Lev transferring the language directly into their brains. It had left Mary with a raging headache, but not Payne. "We're cheering for you, Major," Fleet Admiral Harry Wesson said. He was leaning against the unoccupied command chair on the dais overlooking the command deck, the bridge located in the middle of battleship Leviathan, the greatest ship humanity had ever flown on, and it was 1,000 years old. It was a doomsday weapon built by the progenitors to make war so costly that no one waged it. But they didn't end all wars. A breakaway faction of Progs called themselves the Vestrall and preferred war as a solution to their problems. The original Progs had left for a new galaxy rather than fight, but they'd left Leviathan behind for when a race was mature enough to challenge the Vestrall. The progenitors had bet on humanity by leaving the battleship on Ganymede, a moon orbiting Jupiter. And not just any humans. Major Payne and his team had been welcomed with open arms. And clear minds, because Lev was telepathic. He saw the truth deep down in Declan's mind. He wanted to end the war. He didn't care if they won. That worked for Leviathan because he was also a pacifist. Fighting was never the first solution. It could only be the last. The Vestrall had co-opted 5 younger races they called the Blaze Collective to do the fighting for them. The Ebron were the most prominent. Next were the Rancor. If Payne was successful, both races would end their war with humanity, leaving only the Barants, Arn, and Zuloon. Once the Vestrall were gone, none of the Blaze would have a reason to continue fighting. That was the hope. It had started with Payne. It would end with Payne. The massive dog-like creatures known as the Cabrizi pounded down the main corridor and entered the bridge, with Morris right behind them, yelling at them in Ebron. They stopped by Payne, tongues lolling while he scratched behind their ears. The lieutenant switched to English. "They're fine when you're fighting, but outside of that, they are just this side of feral." "I don't have any problems with them," Payne replied with a toss of his head. He'd won them during a battle on the Ebron space station. They were the reason Payne had been given a shot. Those to whom the Cabrizi give their loyalty were held in high esteem among the Ebron. He switched to that language. "You're my good boys, aren't you?" Morris continued in Ebron, but she wasn't talking to the Cabrizi. "And they fart incessantly. No more sleepovers in my room." Payne leaned close, putting his face within a hand's breadth of the slavering jaws that displayed sharp fangs whose sole purpose was to rend flesh. "You wouldn't do that, would you?" "They're cretins." "They're dogs. They're good boys." "Excuse me," the Admiral interrupted. "English, please?" "Sorry, Admiral. We don't even notice when we're doing it because Lev made it seem natural to us. Every bit as much as our own language. We're ready to go whenever we get close." The Admiral held out his hand and Payne shook it. The others on the bridge watched with solemn faces. The civilians, research engineer Malcolm Russell and logistician Louis Barlow. Commodore Nyota Freeman from the Blue Earth Protectorate, the defensive force responsible for protecting the planet. No one wanted this war to end more than her, now that Earth had been attacked and the BEP almost annihilated. Almost. Leviathan had arrived in time, not with firepower, but with the power of suggestion and the ability to hack into the Blaze ships. Lev had brought the Rancor and the Ebron to the negotiating table, while the combined forces of the BEP and the Space Ops forces destroyed the balance of the Blaze attack fleet. And hiding in the corner, trying to look disinterested, was Tammany Morgan Swiss, a private financier for Nova Intergalactic, on board as penance for being such an ass. He was responsible for acquiring technology to vault humanity forward, maybe even 1,000 years. The drive that would fold space. He wanted it, and 100 other things, but the ability to travel tens of thousands of light years in the blink of an eye? That had more value than anything else on board the 5-kilometer-long battle wagon. With a curt nod, Payne strode off the command deck to the corridor, where a cart waited to take him to the port hangar bay where the Ebron frigate waited. Major Virgil Dank leaned on the cart, doing his best James Dean impersonation. Virgil had been Declan's XO, but had acquired his own team. It had been wiped out on the operation to seize data from the space station, the same operation on which Payne befriended the Cabrizi. Now, Virgil Dank worked with Payne's team, but not as the XO. That was Mary Morris, the former host of hit reality show Bikinis in Paradise. She'd had an epiphany and joined the military. She'd been given what the leadership thought was a plum assignment on board Leviathan. In 2 missions, she'd been carried off the battlefield both times and spent the next few days in the medical facility healing. She hadn't been hurt because she was bad at her job. No, she'd been injured because the job was dangerous. She'd grown fanatically loyal to the team leader, just like the other members of Team Payne. "Don't let him die, dog," Virgil said, using Mary's team nickname. She gave him the finger, another teamism. She hurriedly tucked her finger back in and shook her head. "Look what I've become." "My second," Payne told her. "If I twist a knee walking to the arena, you're in." She laughed maniacally as they boarded the cart. Payne kept a straight face. The Cabrizi waited on the deck, ready to chase the cart. It was only 3 kilometers and up a few ramps to the hangar bay. The animals had gained muscle and looked ripped because of the amount of power running they did every day. They relished it. "You're serious, aren't you?" Morris gave him the side eye. "Watch your step then, because you're going in that ring if I have to throw you in. You know I wouldn't last 10 seconds with the Ebron champion." "Sick the Cabrizi on me, will you?" Payne finally laughed, but it was forced. He was trying to keep it light so he wouldn't burn out in anticipation. He closed his eyes and tried to relax. Mary took his hand. He opened his eyes a slit to look at it before intertwining his fingers with hers. He focused his thoughts on his core, the place from which his power flowed. He rotated left and right. His ab strength had doubled in the past 2 weeks. From there he could rotate faster, strike harder, and move out of the way of incoming blows. Everything he would need in a fight. The double doors to the hangar bay opened to allow the cart through without slowing. It headed across the bay to where the ramp was extended on the Ibran frigate. The captain waited at the bottom with his long, gangly arms crossed. When the cart stopped, Payne and Morris climbed out. The Cabrizi greeted them as they stepped off the cart. They received the appropriate number of ear scratches. "Captain Belron, Major Payne and Lieutenant Morris reporting as ordered to catch a ride to the planet's surface."
"I am honored to carry Cabrizi aboard my vessel." He bowed to the animals. "We will assume a low orbit and then take a shuttle to the landing pad outside the High Command headquarters. It is there you will make your challenge."
"Thank you for your help, Captain. Daylight's burning." The captain regarded him.
"You say it in Ibran, but that is not an Ibran phrase. Sunlight is a constant. Only the planet's rotations cause day and night."
"We're not getting any younger," Payne tried.
"Time is linear," the captain countered.
"A penny saved is a penny earned?"
"I don't know what a penny is."
"Then I have achieved complete enlightenment. Come on, Skipper, let's see what there is to see." Payne walked up the ramp first. The Cabrizi followed him, and Mary followed them. The captain entered last. With a final look around the hangar bay, he secured the hatch, and the ramp retracted into the ship. It was the first time they'd been aboard the Ibran ship, although it had been on the hangar deck for 4 days. Some of that time had been spent repairing and upgrading it, as Lev had done with the space ops vessels he had repaired. He was equal opportunity, even for those who had been former enemies. In Lev's mind, the Ibran had never been the enemy, only a tool used by the Vestrall. He had destroyed a great number of Ibran ships, but only while defending himself, when they left him no other choice. Inside, they found narrower and taller corridors than on a human ship. The environment was every bit as austere, with nearly the same color gray as human shipyards had been using for centuries. Payne pointed at the wall and snorted. Mary didn't get the reference. Captain Belron thought it was an insult. He glanced at the Cabrizi before he aired his grievance.
"What do you think is wrong with my ship?"
"Wrong? Nothing. Your interior color is what humans use, too. Are you sure we're not related, like long-lost distant cousins? You have the tall genes, of course." The captain stopped and faced Payne. The Cabrizi growled.
"You want to be more careful," Mary said from behind the Major. "I thought you were making fun." "No, of course you wouldn't. My apologies." He bowed, never taking his eyes off the Cabrizi.
"Settle down, you two."
Payne ran his hand down their sleek backs, but he didn't admit to making a mistake. He couldn't, and the Cabrizi gave him the edge. If he could distract the Ibran champion with a few snarls, that could create an opening when he needed one the most. The battle for primacy is joined, he thought to himself. A plaque on a future Space Ops Academy building, but only if he won. The dread returned to the pit of his stomach. All the glory would be his, whatever that meant. This was the first shot in the rest of the war, even though he'd been fighting for what seemed like his entire adult life. It was easy to get distracted, because if he focused on the fight, it turned his guts inside out. He wanted to get it over with.
"You have a magnificent ship, Captain. What's her name?"
"Her? Name? This is Frigate 7312. We call it 12 for short. I guess that is its name." He thought for a moment. "Humans name their ships after females?"
"We name ships after all kinds of people, places, things, battles from the past. Just about anything can be a ship name. I served on Volar, named after a person of Earth. Also Cleophas, a mythical figure. Weird, but both of those were female, I believe. And of course Leviathan, which is also a mythical figure.
Odd. Is there no standard naming convention? It seems like chaos. The captain backed away from the Cabrizi and continued leading the humans to their quarters, which meant only one with one bed. Thank you. Do you not have separate quarters for us, or 2 beds? You are lovers, no? The captain shared a human-like quizzical expression. And this is all we have. My XO is hot-racking with the chief engineer. These will be fine, Mary said before reconsidering. Aren't we going straight to the planet? No, we need to decontaminate. We'll have to spend 1 day in a holding pattern while High Command searches our digital files for viruses, as well as conducts a physical inspection of the ship. You'll never be able to get the human stench out, or so I'm told, Payne quipped. We're used to it on our end. The captain missed the joke. The Cabrizi are adding their scent to my ship. It is an honor. You? Not so much. We will scrub this room when you leave. Payne held out his hand. I want to call you friend because you are making me feel welcome. This is the galaxy I want to live in, where 2 species can work together without cause for concern. What do you like to do when you're not doing this? Payne spread his arms wide to take in the whole ship. The captain looked confused once more. This is what I do. I am an Ibran soldier. We soldier until we cannot do it anymore. Then we return home. I'd say the same for me, Payne replied. Once this is over, I invite you to Earth so we can go fishing in the mountains of Colorado. There are trout that won't catch themselves in those streams of crystal-clear water without people for kilometers in any direction. Fishing? We have no such places on Ibran. We have many people. There is no place without. I will leave you to it. The captain bowed to the Cabrizi and nodded at the humans. Please do not go anywhere without an escort. Not everyone is as welcoming of humans as I am. Payne patted one Cabrizi's head. We're not going to steal any secrets or sabotage your ship. And we'll have the Cabrizi with us. There's no way the 4 of us are going to sit in here for a day, so please accept my apology now, because we're going to roam the ship so we don't go insane. Payne left no room for misinterpretation. The captain's face twitched. Ibran captains were the masters of their domains, but he discovered he no longer had the final word. The human with the Cabrizi and the ship that had repaired his had leverage over him. He didn't like it, but knew he had no choice. My apologies. Yes, you will have free movement throughout the ship. Maybe you can let the crew see the Cabrizi. That will enrich their lives. They don't usually get an opportunity for such a thing. Were these on station E4135? They were? Captain Belron nodded. Their previous owner was not well liked. I suppose he is dead now. Losing the Cabrizi to an enemy is a capital crime. How did you defeat him? Shock and awe. We hit them fast and hard and kept hitting. You will not be able to do that to the reigning champion. If he wins, he will win the Cabrizi too. And the female. He won't win, Mary said coldly. Payne wasn't sure she was talking about the Ibran champion. We'll take our leave now, if you don't mind, and shortly we'll explore the ship and show the Cabrizi to every member of your crew, if that will brighten their day. The sun brightens our day. The Cabrizi enrich our souls. Exactly what I meant to say, Payne countered. I thank you, my friend. They shook, and Payne no longer felt the pressure that the captain had been able to apply earlier. In 2 weeks, Payne had grown stronger, well beyond the ability of an average Ibran. He felt the confidence he wanted to feel. Payne was still afraid. How could he not be? The fate of humanity was on his shoulders. The captain closed the door behind him. Mary leaned against the wall. "No funny business," she said, crossing her arms and cocking her head. "What are you talking about?" "Just because we're in the same bed doesn't mean you're going to get any of this." She drew a frame around her body with her index fingers. "I'm what?" Payne flopped on the bed and laid back. He closed his eyes and spoke softly. "I don't want to die. I don't want to fight as humanity's representative on the galactic stage. How does shit like that happen? One human, billions counting on me, for all eternity. One human. That's fucked up." "Did you choose it? Did you campaign for the pleasure of representing your fellow humans? Did they vote for you?" "Of course not. Lev chose me." "Trust Lev. Trust that he wants to do what's right for the universe, and that means we have to defeat the Vestrall. We can't do that until we get past the blaze, and we can't do that until you win that fight. You win that fight, and I'm all yours." "Is that supposed to motivate me more than the entirety of humanity counting on me?" "One thing I've learned being on your team is that although the missions have strategic objectives, when we're out there, we're fighting for each other. Tomorrow, when you're in that ring, you're fighting for me and just me. No other distractions." "When I win, you don't have to pay up." "When you win, I'll be hard-pressed not to pay up right there." She winked at him even though his eyes were closed, but he smiled. He held out his hand and Mary shook it. "It's a bet. A crappy bet on your part, as you get nothing if I lose." "I get a life of slavery, second to the dogs, if you lose. You better not fucking lose." Payne sat up. "Remember when they told us that just doing our best was good enough?" Mary laughed. "It may not necessarily apply here." "Winning isn't everything," Payne shouted. He stood, having a hard time making eye contact with his XO. He turned his attention to the Cabrizi. "Are you ready to go? There's no room to run on this ship, but we'll stretch your legs. The frigate is not for big boys like you." Mary Morris opened the door and stepped into the corridor to find an Ibran crewman waiting there. "Our escort?" she asked. "I am your escort," he confirmed. "Lead on. We're here to visit the ship." Chapter 2. Every fight is a fight to win. From the memoirs of Fleet Admiral Harry Wesson. Less than 1 day later, the captain personally piloted the shuttle to the planet's surface, with only the humans and the Cabrizi as passengers. The ride was rougher than glamorous Glennis penetrating a planet's atmosphere. Payne wasn't bothered. His thoughts were focused on the hours ahead. Maybe it would only be minutes. He'd memorized the formal challenge, although the humans with the Cabrizi were expected. Leviathan's presence in orbit over the Ibran homeworld had created a stir that had raged through the entire population. They saw Payne as Earth's ambassador. Declan Payne didn't see himself with that lofty a title, especially since the pomp and circumstance surrounding his arrival would be a bare-knuckle fight. Emphasis on the word bare. He snorted. "Don't be eyeballing my junk," he told his XO. "Is this your idea of focusing?" "I'm focused on the fight. I heard cheers and Cabrizi howls. My mind works through a series of related issues until I arrived at you trying to meat-gaze me." "Meat-gaze?" She rolled her eyes in spectacular fashion. "You better fucking win." "What did I tell you about swearing? You're not good at it." "I've been practicing with Heckler. I think I'm pretty good, but you'll never know if you don't fucking win." "I hear a theme repeating in your words, dog." Before Payne could continue his thought, the shuttle bumped to a landing. The captain popped the hatch and walked out first. Mary walked out next, calling the Cabrizi to her. They waited on the stone and steel surface of a landing pad outside a massive ziggurat, like a pyramid of earth, but modern and 4 times the size. Payne studied the area to get his bearings. An honor guard stood off to the side. 2 older, broken-looking Ibran waited next to them. Payne stepped onto Ibran, crouching to place his hands on the surface. He closed his eyes and raised his face toward the sun. "May the glory of Ibran welcome me home." Lev had coached him on what to say after getting access to the Ibran computers during the frigate's repair and upgrade. Lev called it the price of getting the work done. Captain Belron bowed deeply to Payne this time. "And we welcome you as a brother." Payne touched the captain on the shoulder on his way by. He stopped at the Cabrizi and rested his hands on their heads. He shouted as loudly as he could, "I, Major Declan Payne, accept the challenge of Ibran's champion to petition the High Command for redress." The oldsters bowed, and Payne walked toward them, snapping his fingers for the Cabrizi to follow. Mary coaxed them to move. When they jumped up, they took off running. Payne's first instinct was to run after them, but he was still trapped in the series of protocols required to complete the challenge and earn himself a bout in the ring. Belron watched the Cabrizi run. "Do we need to recover them?" "Of course not. They'll come back after a good run. On Leviathan, they are able to run 20 to 30 kilometers a day. It keeps them fit. On frigate 7312, they didn't get to run at all." Mary stuck 2 fingers in her mouth and whistled. The Cabrizi turned in a wide loop, continuing their blistering pace until they ended at Mary's side. She slipped them the jerky treats she always carried in her pocket. "Amazing," one of the older Ibran muttered. He looked down at Payne, but not far, and delivered his official greeting. "Welcome to Ibran as a brother in this momentous occasion. May your eyes see opportunity, your mind know which ones to seize, and your fists deliver hearty blows." Payne bowed. He was on Ibran. This was not the place for handshakes. "For the greater good of all the galaxy." Payne substituted galaxy where his hosts would have said Ibran. The elder inclined his head in recognition. The second elder stepped up to stand beside the other. "I am the Undertaker." He said it in a deep and rolling voice, unlike that of any of the other Ibran, who spoke in higher tones. Payne stifled a laugh. "I appreciate your presence. How do you think you can help me?" "Isn't that obvious?" "Ah, yes, you're assuming I'm going to lose. Have you ever entertained a non-Ibran who has lost to your champion?" "Yes," the Undertaker droned. "A Barant and an Arn. The Rancor and the Zulun have not requested an audience with the High Command." "And that's why the Vestrall are here, because the Ibran bested the other species, all except the Vestrall. How did the Vestrall win the fight? They are not physically powerful," Payne noted. The Undertaker didn't answer. It was probably taboo to talk about winning strategies within the arena. One had to figure it out as he went. "I guess we better get to it then. Can't keep the High Command waiting." Payne held out his arms for the Undertaker to take measurements. Once finished, the old Ibran trundled away. The first elder asked Payne and his party to follow him. His pace was quick, almost too fast for a walk. Payne held out his hand for Mary to slow down since she was jogging. "We're the guests. He can slow the fuck down to our speed." Payne assumed a more leisurely pace, and their escort surged far ahead before he realized the humans were no longer following. Payne ran after the Cabrizi and they darted away, sprinting a short way before coming back for more. The elder watched, captivated by the scene. "Is this what you do with your Cabrizi? It seems disrespectful and untoward. Cabrizi are revered on Ibran." "They are revered on Earth, too, as partners in life.
I love my boys, and I would die to protect them, as would my mate. The Cabrizi respect that. That's why the Cabrizi are with us instead of the commander of...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?